And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. I'm Ray. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
And this is Dan, and both of us are real estate agents who also have a beard, which make us ideal host for a show called the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. Fantastic hair, Dan. For the audio listeners, you're missing Dan's locks.
They're getting to be a little bit fun now. I decided no more. I trimmed the beard a tiny bit just to kind of keep it in shape, but I haven't touched my hair since the RONA started. Well, even before that. So
okay,
yeah, it's here. So if you're listening on our audio, which you can find us over at all of your podcast preferred
wherever your favorite podcast is squeezed, we're there.
But yeah. Check us out. We're on Facebook Live, every week at 10 a.m. my time, on YouTube's, all that stuff. So you can check out my nutty hair.
Yeah, rub it in. And Jason, he says ideal host.
We are.
So, and you could join the conversation just like Jason did if you are following us live. I keep repeating it. It sounds like a CD skipping. I don't know why I'm doing that, but that's happening today. So, oh, it's been a week. Okay,
And it's only Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. You could join us live on Facebook and on YouTube, and then you could comment live. We can display your comment just like I did with Jason, and we could talk about you, or we could talk about your comment. So thanks for joining us live. If you're checking this out on YouTube later, let's say it's like a Thursday, and you're just now getting around to watching the show, that's totally cool. You can look down in the comments, and in the comments, we'll have each breakdown of the headlines and some of the discussions we have, and you can click the little timestamp in that comment, and boom, you can jump right to that article. So let's say you're like, man, I really want to know what they're talking about with these iBuyers and why they're dropping their offers for this home, what's happening. You could just click it and it'll take you right to it. Or maybe you're really interested in Opendoor's going public, which is one of the last stories that we're going to do today. You just click it and it'll take you right to it. So we have a bunch of fun stories. But if you saw the thumbnail, did you see the thumbnail, Dan?
Yeah, I shared it on Insta.
The thumbnail is becoming masterful. It's a fun gig now for us to mess with the thumbnail. And if you talk to a YouTube expert, say like Malcolm, which he joins the show every now and then, or Christina M. Smallhorn, they'll probably tell you it's not the most effective thumbnail for clicks, but man, are they fun to make. So we have in the thumbnail, it's me and you, and it looks like the Three Stooges. But you know what's different about the Three Stooges and me and you, Dan? There's one other stooge.
Yeah. We're missing a stooge.
We're missing a stooge. And so for this week's show, we're getting a stooge. So I want you guys to give a warm welcome to Zach Walker, host of Boomer and the Beard, which he could have called it Beard and the Boomer, but host of Boomer and the Beard.
I think it flows better, though.
It does flow better. He's
without question. Yeah.
He's for those of you who don't know who he is, he's a radio superstar and a former real estate agent. Do you still have your license?
My license is inactive. I still own a real estate company.
Okay. So you still own a real estate company then. You still operate. And I get to join Zach and Boomer every Tuesday morning, super early in the morning for me. And I usually talk tech stuff. We talk some politics. We talk some real estate, but it's kind of it runs the gambit lately.
Yeah. Our show is it's a show about everything and a show about nothing all at the same time. And so we tend to, it's really just a conscious stream of thought for 2 hours. And people are always like, man, so you different on the air? Or it's like, no, you literally just get to listen to 2 hours of my normal life. That's pretty much why they do that. So
yeah, it's the same thing as normal. You just put a microphone comes right in front of you. You just keep talking for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, life is going, we're just over here working, and then all of a sudden radio time, and it just runs. And so
you don't put on a different voice or anything. Same voice,
same everything. Yeah.
Because I wake up at 3:45 in the morning, it's usually an octave lower. So it's like I'm usually
yeah.
Which
the docile tones.
it's not a bad thing for radio to have a good radio, deep radio voice. And then the day goes on and I end up here. Dan
and I are a little envious of your show because you have what we always have claimed to have, but possibly maybe never have, or maybe they're just hidden, but a producer. And that's really cool. We always blame our producers on stuff, but we don't have them.
So we do. We can't talk about it.
That's an unbelievable story. He's 17. Like, he is a senior in high school. He comes in at 4:00 in the morning. He gets here like 4:30. He does our show and then goes to school. Like, I would have never done that in high school.
That's awesome.
Way. We have a couple of comments.
A ton. I promise you, I don't pay him a ton. So
we have a couple of comments I want to get to. Christian Harris says, my two favorite sexy bearded real estate gentlemen, other than Kellen, the beard Hoskins, your Prescott area realtor, of course. That was comment was before you were put on the show. Pete Thorpe said, color me shocked. Do you mean that it was never a viable model and just dropped by Wall Street trying to do a land grab? Who'd have thunk? I think he's talking about the iBuyer stuff that we were talking about earlier. So yes, we're going to get to that. It's really interesting to see what's happening.
Ooh. There's a little conspiracy in what Pete said there. I like that.
Yeah. And there's a, I think he just edited something. Okay. And there's a little twist to the story though, because it depends on how you read this headline. And so I'll throw in the twists. Melissa Marr says stooges. Ryan Bokro says, dude, the beards. Yes. He's commenting on the YouTube. And Pete Thorpe said, wait, do I comment on Ray's feed or the BMORE feed? So yeah, so if you're checking it out on, because we have StreamYard, like we're broadcasting everywhere. The BMORE feed, we're broadcasting on my feed, we're broadcasting on YouTube. So multiple spots and we can still display your comment. There's the cat. All right, well, Zach, before we get into the show, how did you get into real estate? Like real quickly, like what was your draw to it and why'd you start?
I've been waiting for this story. I want to hear this story.
I had no other options. I was pretty much no, I'm kidding. But in some ways, I'm serious. It was just a matter of I had a significant change in my life 6 years ago or 7 years ago. Now I was a drug addict, and so as my life was put back together, by God's grace, it was one of those things where it made a lot of sense. I could sell anything, and so I just figured I would give it a go. I got my license, realized that your typical agent wasn't a professional in any sense of the word, and I mean that in the most loving way possible to all those agents out there that are watching the show. But I also thought that real estate needed a shakeup, and so instead of just getting my license and going to work for somebody, I actually started my own. I hired a broker, which is highly unusual, and we opened our own company, and we did flat rate listings. We didn't knock the buyer side at all. We made sure to protect the commissions there as best we possibly could. We obviously informed our clients that they had a choice, but we did a little different. We were disruptive and we were a lot of fun. And I drove a truck with my face on the side of it, and I called myself the Bearded Realtor.
There you go, a wrap.
There it is.
So now you went from there to radio.
But wait. Let's not move on from the Bearded Realtor thing. Isn't there a story there?
Yeah. So I was sitting actually where I'm sitting now, and I got a letter delivered. My sister brought me a letter, and it was from the lawyers of the National Association of Realtors. And ooh. I had been told to stand down. Now, mind you, I'd been using the name for over a year and a half at this point. So once I got a little traction and it started to really, what happened is I put pressure on the market. Somebody got pissed and they turned me in.
Yeah. Right.
That's what it was, along with the stolen signs and all the other nonsense that these idiots pulled off. But the only way around it, you cannot say the bearded realtor, the fat realtor, the skinny realtor. You cannot use a descriptive word before realtor and be within their trademark or their whatever the rules. And so anyone that's doing that is breaking the rules. Now, they don't get letters because they're not important enough to piss people off. But once you hit that level, so long story short, I actually had the paperwork to change my name because the only way that you could do it is if it's your physical name. And so my wife had signed off on it, everything. I was changing my name to Zachary Bearded Walker, and then I could call myself the Bearded Realtor, and they could not say a word to me.
Yeah. Wow.
And then I sold the company, and that was the end of that. But I was prepared to change my name.
My light just ran out. And on that note,
All right.
change the battery over there.
This is the exact reason why I don't do batteries, because I would never change them. And then this
Yeah, I know. Well, I forget, you get into a lot of Zoom meetings with clients these days. So it's not like the old days where you just, this was the only time.
You look a lot better.
Show up.
Howard said, hi from Israel. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
He is the reason we are world famous.
Well, that, and we are also the number 16 podcast in all of the news category in Taiwan. Just so you know, that is a true statistic. That's an actual statistic.
That's real.
That is real. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad you're joining us on the show. We're going to put you back up whenever we do some of these stories to get your comments after we run through the headlines. And Dan, before we get into those headlines, and maybe while I'm plugging in a light, would you tell people exactly what this show is actually all about very slowly?
You know what? I would love to. When Ray and I met, what? Is that too slow?
No, it's good.
When Ray and I met here on the interwebs about we're just calling it, I don't know, whatever, 4 years now. I don't even know, 10 years ago, whatever, doesn't matter. I had an idea for a show because I am, in fact, a bearded man of real estate. And when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him. He hates changing batteries and lights.
Hate it.
Which is obviously, or become very obvious as of today. But no, I obviously noticed he also had a beard, but what he also had was a layout for the show, and it's the same format we use today. But what I also noticed is that he loves giving value up front to not only his clients, but just to humans. So the show is about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human. And I'm still trying to stretch. So what I did want to mention here, because we all know what the show is about. And then we're going to do the thing. We're going to get it back to them. We'll bring Zach up and all that stuff. But what I did want to mention to all those people that are listening, the podcast, thank you, because we are getting stronger numbers, not just in Taiwan, but we are. But thank you to everyone that's downloading the podcast and listen. We appreciate it because we do consider ourselves a podcast, and we love going live. We love the interaction, but everyone else that's downloading it, we love you guys as well. So thank you so much. And Ray is back with some lights this time.
With some lights. Ryan Booker says logical. And Pete Thorpe said the purple background like Prince. That's right.
I know. See, I think you should just gone with it the whole show.
The without the light, it was a little more dramatic, wasn't it?
It was very dramatic. I liked it, but it wouldn't have been good for all the chopped. In case you guys don't know what our chops are, wouldn't have been good for that.
So did you already tell them about the chops thing?
No, but I mentioned them as a segue to you.
So the chops,
because I'm tired of talking already.
If you can't watch the entire show, if you can't catch the entire show, you can always catch a chop or a small segment of the show. And what we do is we'll take the headlines, we'll chop them up, get it chops, right? Facial hair. So we'll chop up that segment and then we'll release that. So you can follow our YouTube and subscribe there, and that way you'll be notified of those. And also our Facebook page, you can also do it there too. All right. Are you ready to get into these headlines?
If you don't like any of the silly banter stuff or the fun stuff where our producers stage a light going out to add, drama,
dramatic effect,
right? Then you just watch a chopped, or you can skip through the YouTubes. But yes, ready?
Yeah, and if you didn't like watching all the banter, this show, it's too late. You've already done that.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the headlines.
Oh, we should have brought Zach up, man.
Oh man, I gotta display this comment. Wonderful builder from Northwest Arkansas says, Ray looking swole, brother. Thanks, man. I really appreciate the compliment.
It's because of CrossFit.
It is the crossfitting.
There's some controversy this week, but we're gonna let that go.
There is controversy. Jillian Michaels has no idea what she's talking about. Let's just drop it there.
She is the Susie Orman of fitness.
Oh, that is such an applicable comparison,
right?
Dusty Martin says, what's up, bearded men? Only stopping by for a bit, got a free lunch, got to take advantage of the new build community down the street.
Absolutely.
So love you, but not as much as I love free food, at least for today. That's fair. You can always catch the rerun. All right, so let's get into these headlines. There's been some major changes, I guess you could say, in the industry as far as iBuying goes. First up, offers from iBuyers are getting weaker. So this is from a brand new report. We've never reported on this report before, but from now on, it will be a quarterly report. It's from Zavie, Zavvie, and it's called the Seller's Preference Report. So I've never heard of this report before, and I started looking into it, and I'm like, it's the first one ever.
Yeah, it is. We're literally bringing you the first Zavie confidence report ever.
That's right. iBuyer offers plummet in 2020, both in units and in volume. That's right. iBuyering has taken a turn due to the RONA, and it hasn't recovered at the same rate of pace as traditional real estate market. Purchases by iBuyers were also down a whopping 82% overall in the third quarter of 2020. This information comes through the first ever seller's preference report by the Zavie report. This, looking at the data, we see that in 2019, iBuyers purchased homes at 98.6% of market value across the country. In 2020, that number dropped to 95.5%. The lower offers were likely due to the perceived increase in risk after the shutdowns. However, you could also say that now they're getting a better deal. Those offers were still accepted 4.7% of the time in the third quarter of 2020 compared to 4.2% of the time last year. So just like we're saying iBuyer offers are getting worse, you could also say iBuyers are getting a better deal this year than they were last year. So this suggests that for some sellers, the iBuyer benefits of speed, certainty, convenience, and perhaps above all safety due to the RONA are compelling enough to justify a lower offer amount and higher service fees. What? Higher service fees?
Yeah.
That's right. Last year, the service fees averaged 7.6%.
Wait, what?
This year, they average 8%. So
and that's just is that the service fees and what they pay out to a buyer or no?
I think I'm going to say that's probably the total real estate commission fee.
Okay. Because this is just so everyone's clear. This is when, if I have a house to sell, this is when an iBuyer comes in, offers me blah, 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 and charges me 8%.
And then charges you 8% on the back end too. So they're offering you lower. So they're offering you 5% lower than market value, or 4.5% lower than market value.
And they're charging you more.
And they're charging you 8%. Mm-hmm. So yeah, very interesting information. I'll bring up Zach. Zach had kind of a, not to
I was about to say, let's be careful here.
You had a discount brokerage of sorts. It wasn't really a discount.
We never like to use the word discount. We were boutique. Okay,
you're boutique, and you charged a flat rate, so it wasn't tied to a percentage of the sale. So that's the difference. Like I could say I have a flat rate brokerage, but I'm charging like $100,000 a sale, y'all. Right. So just because it's a flat rate doesn't make it a discount or something like that. But this is kind of an interesting twist on what we've seen coming, because off iBuyers and stuff like that really started picking up steam last year. This year they were supposed to be all the rage, and then boom, RONA, volume of deals goes down 82%, but so does their offers. What's your take?
Well, if you listen to this will be a first for Dan. Dan, if you don't listen to my show, which I doubt you have, we have Stupid American. He's a character that plays on our show very, very frequently. And this is his voice. Hey, wait a minute. You mean to tell me they're going to offer me less and charge me more, and it's not going to work? Yeah,
pretty much.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, it works great in the investment market. It works great for those that, a loved one dies and the house is not in great shape, and it needs a ton of work, and it's a project or whatever. But if you're trying to capitalize on equity you've built up in your home and move to another home and want to be able to do that with any sort of ability to keep your money, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's been watching the show.
Almost. He's been taking the notes. So what's interesting about it to me is when the iBuyers came out, they said, oh, this is going to replace agents. Here it is. This is the thing that's a nail in the coffin for real estate agents. They're not going to be able to make what they make. They're not going to be able to do what they do. And then we said on our show, this is not competition for real estate agents. This is competition for investors.
Yes.
And competition for investors that wanted a quick flip, competition for investors that would come in and maybe offer 90%, 92%. Now they're going to have to offer 95%, and they're trying to make like a 30% after repair market value, right? It's just not going to happen anymore with the iBuyers as your competition in the major markets. iBuyers still haven't really touched Arkansas. And I think part of the reason is they can't get a good view of the data, right? You got $1 million house, buy a not so $1 million house in Arkansas. So it's very difficult to calculate those values. It's not like you have spec homes of $700,000 in Arkansas.
We down here, we have we have one of the hottest real estate markets in the country right now. And that's not my opinion. We've been in Forbes, we've been in Business Insider, we have been called the Silicon Valley of the South. Toyota's making a $5 billion investment. Facebook is here. Elon Musk and his rocket factory, they're here. I mean, that's all within 10 miles of where I'm sitting, right? And so we have a tremendous market. When I started my real estate company, my entire plan was I actually copied everything I could from Redfin. Redfin had there was one chink in their armor that made them illegal in the state of Alabama. It was the way they compensated. It made their model illegal here. And so I said,
how did it make it illegal?
So there was a way. Now they changed it because they opened an office here about a year ago. So, but for the first 2 years, a year and a half that I was in business, the way that they compensated, it was like a kickback program, more or less. Like there was something that they were doing that wouldn't allow them to operate here. So I said, I'm going to take their model. I'm going to be first to market with it. And I'm going to be a discount brokerage. I'm going to do something entirely different. Another guy with way more money, he claims on the radio, he spends $1 million in advertising on his clients, yada, yada, yada. And he's good. He's really good. But he started this iBuyer program locally, right? So again, I copied it, and I'm really good at marketing. So I put it out there. I got call after call after call. People wanted me to buy their house. Nobody wanted what I was offering. And I was like, guys, I promise you, I'm offering you better than what your other 3 iBuyer options are going to be. I'm a better price point. And nobody wanted it because it doesn't work in the real world.
But how many leads did you get of people that wanted to sell their house?
Yeah, both, which was the whole point to begin with. I knew I was never going to buy their house. I knew I was going to, especially once I walked in and told them about a discount flat rate listing.
So this is a good point brought up by Michael.
Terrible model, by the way. If you ever want me to destroy why discount brokerages don't work, I'll be happy to tell you.
Yeah, we'll have to do a bearded men special on that one. Mike Elizabeth Rodell brings up a great point. She says, "Stupid America character." Is that a puppet? Because that would be awesome. It would be great to get Connor to do the puppeting for the. You got to do this.
I'm on it. Well, next time you kick me off the screen, I'm getting on Amazon.
That's so good. Make sure it wears jorts and has a mullet. Okay, so your discussion about Redfin couldn't be more timely because it's a perfect transition into the next story. So it's almost like you've done this radio thing before, sir. So Dan, take it away.
Hey, so the Redfin CEO says that the booming RONA housing market. Remember, we can't say that word, or we'll get pushed down. So it's the booming RONA housing market. I don't think they've caught on to us using RONA yet. By the way, so I think we're good. But he says, and this is Glenn Kelman, who is the CEO of Redfin. He says that the housing market can get even hotter. So nothing crazy here, nothing too outlandish that he's claiming, but it's pretty crazy to hear it from a CEO, a C-level employee. So the hot housing market during the RONA could heat up even further if more homes are up for sale. The CEO of real estate brokerage Redfin told CNBC on Monday, if we see people get more comfortable letting others into their home, we're going to see more inventory on the market, and that's what will drive sales volume, Glenn Kelman said on Closing Bell. He goes on to say, today we are definitely inventory constrained. There aren't enough homes for people to buy, which we've been saying on the show since the inception of the show. So nothing groundbreaking there. But home sales have been a point of economic strength despite the significant damage caused by the RONA, driven in part by the increased flexibility of remote work. So that's the interesting part to me, because during this week's research for the show, I saw a lot of different articles, and one actually broke down where people are moving, and you hear a lot about people moving from California, and we have a lot of that, but Texas has had a lot of the most people leaving Texas going to other states.
Really? And then interesting, Elon,
he went there. Yeah. But they also have a lot of people going in as well. Arizona has a lot of people going in. Arkansas was on the list. I know, Ray knows Arkansas a little bit. He's from there. But just, it's interesting to see how this is being, the people, you can work literally from anywhere, and how it's people being fanned out around the country, So this is, he goes on to say, every week I think it can't get crazier. and then it gets crazier. Still, he acknowledged that heat cannot be sustained indefinitely. This is a quote from him again. Mortgage rates are below 3%. That can't last forever. But here's a really interesting part. He says, but we think it can last through 2021. So we do have that one economist saying the next 3 years, but he's saying it'll stay below 3% through 2021. So we do have a prediction show coming up, Ray, on the 30th, right?
Yes, for sure. So predictions on the 30th. We have some special guests, other real estate agents from around the country, spanning each time zone in the United States. Actually,
we got it all covered. We have all
join us
four, I believe. We have all 4 time zones.
We have all 4 time zones. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
we don't have Hawaii. We got to get back.
I never do research for the show. I'm just kidding, but I'm going to do a lot of research and try to really, really nail this year's prediction. So this is going to be part of that. But he compared them. He mentioned that the strength of the current housing market is not similar to the mortgage bubble of the early 2000s, although credit standards are much tighter than they were. So what's driving this boom is true demand, that people want to live elsewhere. There's less speculation. There's less predatory lending. This isn't just a finance-fueled boom, he said. It is driven by a true change in consumer behavior where people want to go to Montana or at least Sacramento or Tucson rather than living in the major urban centers. So interesting stuff from the CEO of, I don't know, I'm just going to call him my favorite company. I love Redfin. Ray's. Why can't I hear Ray?
I muted it. That's fine. TJ Tripp brings up a good point. He says, define hotter.
Right. Well, that's the CEO stuff. Define hotter. It's all very, that's why when we cover these things and a CEO makes a comment, it's always interesting. But the one thing the little nugget that I like to pull from there is that he believes that interest rates are going to stay below 3 throughout the next year. That's crazy to me.
I think when you said define hotter, I just want to put up Jonathan Millions comment, Ray looking swole, brother. I mean, that's a pretty good definition.
Or just solo back on me again. That's fine.
Yeah, solo back on you. So Howard Broadsley says, interesting, getting the customer comfortable with the RONA in the market. Dusty Bart says, lies, no one wants to live in Tucson, even if they have a choice. Taylor says, Fayetteville, Arkansas was named the 2nd or 3rd most desired place to live in Forbes. Yeah, I did see that too. So we are seeing some of that. We actually have an article that we're going to cover in a little bit talking about where people are moving. Have you seen a lot of people moving to Huntsville from around the country? Are y'all getting a massive influx?
Yeah. Well, Alabama was definitely on the list, was up at the top of the list for influx.
Is the influx coming due to the industry that's there now with the whole rocket scientists and stuff like that are, I mean, that's crazy. First off, the paradigm that most of the South holds for places like Arkansas and Alabama is not one of rocket scientists. So it's just kind of interesting to see Huntsville, Alabama becoming like a hotspot for geniuses. But
by the way,
it did produce me.
It did what?
It did produce me.
Yeah. Point in. You made my point there. So,
wait. Can I just? One of my favorite YouTubers is Destin. He's got Smarter Every Day channel, and he's literally from Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah. I love it.
I knew he was Alabama. I didn't know he was Huntsville though. So that's cool.
So our engineering and space and all that stuff, I mean, literally we were called Silicon Valley of the South in one of the major publications because our new construction market is, I was telling you some of those numbers, like we're getting $145, $150 a square foot on new construction. I'm about to help my dad sell his house, and we're going to list it in the mid 120s, and it's 10 years old and it hasn't really been upgraded. He'll probably get it. You cannot find a rental anywhere. I've got an Airbnb. Wow. We converted my investment properties to an Airbnb, and then the city shut it down and said, we don't have Airbnb in this town, Sonny. So I put it on VRBO. Well, I put it on VRBO and they didn't seem to care, but it's not stupid. I'm not. If the mayor's watching, I love you, mayor, but we got to work through that. But it is an incredibly hot market. You can't buy anything. I mean, houses are getting sold before we're developing 155 lots, and they'll be sold before we ever even think about wanting to sell them because you can't keep inventory. It's just unbelievable. For our MLS, this is a number for our MLS. There was like 2.5 or 3 agents per one listing.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. Well, they say 87% of real estate agents don't make it through the first 2 years. So I'm not surprised that most agents aren't listing. But we could be seeing part of the change from all of this hubbub in the market could be coming from changes in what people are buying. So we know that like when the RONA hit, there was a ton of talk about everyone wanting bigger and better, right? They wanted a house with a gym, house with an office, a pool, a media room, tennis court, basketball facility, hiking trails. Like they basically wanted a house with everything so that they could, whenever they quarantined, it was like just being in their own luxury area.
They just had their own retreat. Everything was there. They didn't have to leave because they couldn't leave, right?
Right. And that was the paradigm that I kind of operated through, just assuming that everyone was like that. Well, I was wrong.
Wait. We brought this up, remember, on the show, I don't know, a month ago or whatever, but we wondered, I wonder what's happening with tiny homes. Are those gone? Is that still a thing?
Yeah. We even talked about asking Christina M. Smallhorn because she sells a lot of tiny houses and mobile homes as well. And we talked about talking to her about those. Well, it turns out there's a boom. And the question that the article is asking is why? So there's been a huge boom in tiny housing, which that's a fun play on words anytime you get to do that. And if you've been watching people's Instagrams, you've probably been seeing a lot of tiny homes in their stories because that's become a popular share too. So anyway, there's a huge boom in tiny housing. Many ran to simplicity and away from bigger is better. However, some are using these tiny house structures as a second home. For instance, our good friend Tim Macy of the Tim Macy Show, he got a bus and he actually white boxed the bus. That's a throwback to a story from 3 years ago. Also, millennials are moving back home. And I'm wondering if this could be somewhat related to millennials moving back home and mom and dad saying, you know what, we've already converted your basement. Let's just get a little tiny home in the backyard.
Yeah.
But tiny homes are booming during COVID-19, primarily due to the creativity of home and business owners. This is Scott Nathanson. He's the executive vice president for IPX 1031. They're the company that actually did this study. He told Inman, people who run businesses out of their homes, ranging from therapists to dog groomers, are no longer comfortable having clients in their actual residences. Out of 2,000 Americans, IPX 1031 surveyed between November 1st and November 5th of this year, 56% said they would live in a tiny home, and 86% of the respondents who have never owned a tiny home said they would consider buying a tiny home as their first home. A tiny home is often a modest price tag between $30,000 and $60,000 and is likely more appealing in a post-apocalyptic world. Or maybe I guess we're pre-apocalyptic, aren't we?
We're still pre. We haven't apocalyptic yet.
Yeah, pre-apocalypse. So while 53% of the surveyed respondents said they could afford a starter home based on the average, which according to the National Association of Realtors is $233,000, a whopping 79% of respondents said they could afford a tiny home. There's a huge difference in market affordability in these tiny homes and also how people are using them. And I think when that has been combined, you're seeing a huge swell in the sales. It's not just like whenever you read the headline, you're thinking, wow, everybody, instead of getting these big houses like we first thought, they're all just getting all these little tiny homes. That's not exactly accurate. There is a lot of tiny house sales, but some of them are second house sales.
Right. Well, and what if you could go buy some land somewhere for not too much and then buy a tiny house for 50 grand, throw it on there. Now you have everything you need. It's just not in the house. Your office is outside. Your gym is outside. Everything's outside. And, I don't know. I think it's brilliant. I'm always a big fan of, because what we have a lot here in California, and you guys have heard me gripe about it before, is I always just say it's house. They're literally 5 feet apart, just on top of each other. A 2,500 square foot home on a 3,200 square foot lot. That is ridiculous to me. That is insane. And it's just literally keeping humans in boxes. And then when you go outside, you're in another box. Like, how ridiculous is that? So I'd be a big fan of going smaller house, huge lot kind of thing.
Small house, huge lot. So there is some restrictions on that. So that's one of the things that I was considering doing too, is just getting a huge piece of land and then building a small house. But then I ran into these like restrictions based on the loan type, that if I got a certain type of loan, I had to build a certain size house based on the land. So if you're curious about this, it is. But if you're curious, so like
ridiculous.
Yeah, I found a 10-acre parcel of land, and they're like, yeah, totally, you could buy that. You'd have to build a $450,000 house. I'm like, that's not a tiny home. So
I'm not doing that. No.
So what you could do though is survey off a small portion of that land, and then put your tiny house on that small portion of that land,
and then put the rest of it in an agricultural loan. Make it there's certain restrictions towards a certain amount of head of cattle, or if you put chickens, or if there are ways. I mean, so Limestone County, where I'm at in Alabama, is one of the largest agricultural counties in the Southeast. And so we have specific, and I'm sure in Arkansas it's the same, we have specific agricultural lending institutions that they specialize in lending on this type of thing. They'll even lend on the barn dominium concept, which is a similarly disruptive concept to what you're saying in tiny homes.
Oh, I love that. That's a great idea.
Well, I mean, you build a metal shop and then you put whatever you want in it. My wife is not sold on what they look like on the outside, so I got a long way to go there, but I'm trying.
Hey, baby steps, baby steps.
That's right. That's right. Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry, I'm going to be the distraction of the show. Did you say Tim Macy hotboxed his van?
White box.
Oh, different. I was like, was he in California too, or what? Good gracious!
So Tim is a real estate agent in San Antonio, and they bought a school bus. And we did a story like 3 years ago that talked about white boxing. And basically, these people were buying these luxury homes, and they were white boxing, which is they would take everything down in the luxury home. They would take everything down off the walls. They would remove walls, all this other stuff, and they would white box it. So all the beautiful designer colors, all the decor, all the furniture, they would just remove it all, paint it white. And it was like a clean canvas for the next luxury owner to come in and do whatever they wanted to that. Usually it was like apartments or condos in big cities like New York.
High rises and stuff, yeah.
Right. Well, Tim Macy happens to be a former boxer. And if you've never seen him, you'll know he's white. So it was a perfect segue for Tim Macy of the Tim Macy Show, #white boxing. Because at that same time, he came out with a video that was him like working out and doing boxing exercises and stuff like that. So they're giving him heck. So yes, Tim Macy of the Tim Macy Show, #white boxing, actually white boxed a bus that they bought in order to fix up the bus and then travel the United States in this bus.
Sounds a lot better than hot boxing. So. I was just concerned. I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, what kind of people am I talking to? No, I'm kidding. I'm totally joking.
Taylor said off-grid living. She was talking about Fayetteville at the time, but it totally relates to this story that we're talking about now. Howard Hever Broadsley says, I have dear friends that are seriously considered retiring and moving into a tiny home. Michael Elizabeth Brodell said it's a boom of tiny homes because renters and first-time home buyers can't afford the increase in traditional home prices. That could be true. Taylor goes on to say, I'm sure the restrictions of evictions have greatly impacted the stealing of people's homes by the big banks, which, by the way, is a huge problem. It's a devastating butterfly effect on the country. So the stopping of the eviction is the huge problem, or the foreclosing on people's properties is a huge problem.
Because the person got evicted. Yeah, which side?
And we've talked about this a couple of different ways. And one of the things that we've noted is due to the lack of foreclosed homes on the market, that is hurting the bottom 1/3 of the market who are looking for properties in order to buy. People can't find the properties, and so it's driving up the prices. However, if the foreclosure moratoriums were off, then there'd be a lot of people who, I mean, it was just kind of traditional. They need to foreclose on these homes just like they would have last year and the year before. So a large percentage of those homes would actually be on the market, easing some of the inventory in the lower 1/3. Pete Thorpe said, turning vans into tiny homes, traveling the country and blogging or doing arbitrage with Alibaba and Amazon, or drop shipping by mailing stuff they buy at Walmart on the cheap and letting Amazon fulfill it. You know, that's a great idea. I think I'm done with all this. Let's just do that.
Yeah, we can do the show from anywhere, buddy.
Just drop ship it. Jonathan said Fayetteville's encouraging smaller footprints or 600 square foot home going for a 160,000 popping up everywhere. Wow. A lot of excellent.
Is that in California?
No, that is in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
The only jokes I have are California jokes. Unfortunately, I'm from Alabama and I'm not very cultured, so I only know how to make fun of one state. I'm kidding, but I do have another question that's absolutely not related because I'm the distraction. Did you say that you cannot say anything about the Rona?
Yeah, you can't say the C word.
Can either C word.
Can you call it? Will China virus get us in trouble, or how does that work?
Probably not. I mean, so what we notice is just that whenever we said it or put it in the comments, or we put it in not the comments, but we put it in the description of the show, the amount of people that saw the show was way lower.
I posted one yesterday that said it's Tuesday and it's sunny outside, and a thing popped up and said this post is missing some context.
This post is false. Yeah, if you post something like on a Monday, if you say it's Tuesday, I think you'll get the warning now.
Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to distract too bad. Tiny houses here are something we've actually looked at as a business model because shipping containers are, so we have a cabinet shop and like we do construction, home construction, that type of stuff is where our business model is right now. And so we've looked at taking some of those vans or some like even shipping containers, bringing them in, putting them on. I mean, depends on if you want them with wheels or not, but there's a tremendous movement and they're not cheap and they are really cheap to build. And so I think you're going to see a whole crop of, because here's what's happening with all this movement, right? I don't know where in your market, but here, home construction, the home builders, the little guys are being squeezed out because we are growing so fast that all these big guys, the DR Hortons and the Mungos and they were just bought by
Dr. Horton.
All those guys, they're coming in. They're Dr. Horton's squeezing out the little guy, and so these guys are looking to pivot, and I think it would be a good pivot point is to pivot into that luxury tiny home market, and I just there's a tremendous need for it. You can ship them anywhere; they're freaking on wheels.
They said it in a day or two. But a big problem with these tiny homes is the banks still haven't pivoted. I sold a house that was a metal building. We had to get a cash offer. We had like 10 offers. 9 of them were loans. And I would call the lender every time because they sent a pre-approval letter. And I said, look, here's the house. Look it up. Are they actually pre-approved for this specific home? And the lender would say, nah, not going to happen. So they wound up having to go cash. And until the lenders update that kind of stuff, no matter how low the mortgage rates are, which Dan's fixing to talk about, the major issue is going to be the money. If they don't, now for a down payment for some of these homes, you can build a tiny home. But until the banks loosen up the lending constraints on the non-traditional builds or unconventional builds, then I think you'll see the pop in the market. Because I think a lot more people would want these. A lot more people would want the shipping container home. But man, lending is kind of the bottleneck there.
Well, I'm waiting to see a luxury market right now.
I'm waiting to see what happens with what we've talked about on the show a couple of times is 3D printed homes, and how do you get a loan for that? And because it just sounds like the best idea. You just have it printed somewhere, and a few panels are brought in. Boom. Same with shipping container homes. We actually have a friend who did that, and it came out amazing. The things and that was 2 years ago. The things they're doing with these homes. But how do you get a loan for 3 shipping containers?
Yes.
And then, so I mean, it is tough, but like, why don't they pivot, especially in California? Make all the jokes you want, but 300 plus days of sunshine a year kind of gets people here. But it is expensive to live here and own a home here. So, and I get so many times I get people reaching out. I want to buy some land. And then we go find specific land and like, okay, well, you can't do what you want there, but over here you could. And I'm like, well, I don't want to live there. I want to live over there. So I wish it would loosen up. I wish I could help more and more people. Because at the end of the day, if I can help someone buy a $20,000 to $50,000 plot, they can do whatever they want on it. That's amazing to me. I'm down.
Dan, could you reconnect your internet? Just click off and then click on it too, just to make sure. You're kind of breaking up a little bit. It's on a little bit of computer.
Well, and while he's doing that, one comment, California is pretty quick to loosen their regulations, so that should happen pretty soon.
You would think that they would kind of be on the forefront. Dusty Martin says, "Luxury tiny home. That's an oxymoron if I ever heard one." So there's someone living in the land of land. Yeah, if you're looking around and there's a lot of land in your area, then you're thinking like, why in the world build a tiny home? But it's super low maintenance, right? You don't have to do. There's nothing that you have to do to maintain the home. It's all a lot easier than maintaining a large home. So
we're looking at 22 acres right now to move to. I mean, the market's so hot that I've only owned my house. I've owned my house less than 2 years, and the equity in it's ridiculous. It's almost. I mean, it is 50% of the value of my house probably, and so it's been crazy. And so we're looking to capitalize on that and move to our forever home. And so I like hunting. I like being outside. We're looking at 22 acres, and the options are buy a camper and live on that while you build a house, or put a tiny home on there for $40,000-$50,000 and have a really cool in-law suite. And when the parents come down, because
just have a bunch of different in-law suites.
Yeah, I don't want them. Never mind.
And that's called a compound, Dan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, I know. I'm a huge fan of compounds.
They had one in Waco that didn't work out so well. I'm kind of scared of compounds.
Well, that's the thing.
So this is a good point, actually. Melissa Mara says, I have a luxury tiny home. It's a condo. Yeah, it's a fair point.
It does, yeah.
It's a little bit easier to get a loan for a condo than it is a tiny home. Speaking of loan, Dan, tell us what mortgage rates are doing.
I've just been waiting for that. I just wanted that transition right there. There you go. I need to go down to it. Let's see. There we go. Mortgage rates set the 14th record low of the year, driving even more refinance demand. So further ruining my prediction from a year ago, because I think I was at 3.5, which I'm about to go watch last year's show, because we're doing the prediction on December 30th with some fun guests all over the country. I think I did 3.5, and Ray was even more wrong than I, which that never happens. So no, I'm always wrong. Ray's, always right. So anyway, we got, and I love being right, but I just do it for the show. I don't mind being wrong. Anyway, but mortgage rates fell again, falling to a new record low for the 14th time, defying their usual correlation to treasury yields, which have recently been moving higher. And that is sending even more borrowers to their lenders looking to refinance their homes. So mortgage applications to refinance rose 2%. Now, remember a week ago, we covered this and they had gone down. Everything was burning and on fire. We're all going to die. No one's refinancing. The market's going to crash. Oh, but this week they went up 2%. And they're an eye-popping 89% higher from a year ago. Dude, I mean, that's a big stat right there. Because last week it was refinances, or no one's refinancing anymore. That market sucks, but everyone's buying. Now it's flipped. And I'll get into the buyer stats in a minute. And that is according to the Mortgage Bankers Association's seasonally adjusted index. So as rates continue to move lower, millions more buyers can save on their monthly payments, even those who refinanced or bought less than a year ago. The average contract interest rate for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage decreased to 2.9%. So remember, that's just the average. There's people that can get stuff for 2.25 right now. If you, that's just absolutely insane to me. And that is the lowest in the MBA's 30-year survey history. This is a quote from Joel Kahn. He is the MBA economist. The increase in refinance applications was driven by FHA and VA refinances. That's very interesting, right? While conventional activity fell slightly. Mortgage applications to purchase a home fell 5% for the week. So here we go. Let's all run. Just stop selling real estate. Stop helping people buy real estate. But it was a strong 22% higher than a year ago. So there you go.
Interesting how now it's a strong 22% when just a couple of pre-election cycle, it was 40% or 30% higher. Yeah. And they were still focusing on how it was only 1% higher than the previous week. But year over year, it was 40% high. Now it's it's a strong 20%. It's a strong 26%. That's a really interesting twist that they're putting in the articles now.
Well, and it's also, the purchase market is also poised to finish on a strong note, Joel Kahn said. So there's lots of strong going on, but it's just interesting, literally week to week. Last week was refinances are done. People are not going to refinance for the rest of the year. They're done. Oh, but wait, now buyers are not buying and refinances are king, so it's really, really interesting to me. But the applications fell slightly last week. This is to purchase home, but we're around 3% higher than the 2 weeks leading up to the Thanksgiving holiday. So reversing the recent trend, there was also a shift in the composition of applications with an increase in government loans, pushing the average loan balance lower. What was it last week when we hit it, Ray? 375 was the average loan balance, right? Something like Yeah, so that's now been pushed lower because of the government loans. So
interesting. So
yeah.
I'm curious to know, as rates continue to drop, if people will still purchase with the uncertainty in the future if we're going to shut down or not. Because pre-election, I think one of the things that we talked about is with each candidate, what's going to happen, right? If Trump wins and what happens. And I think it was pretty solidly said, if Trump wins, he's probably not going to shut the economy down again. Well, there was some talk, if Biden wins and they shut down the economy, what's going to happen? And we said on this show, if they shut the economy down again, and if lending constraints continue to tighten, you could have situations in which people are essentially out of forbearance, right? They've already been through their forbearance period. They're trying to play catch up. And now, hey, you lost your job again. We're not sure how long because government shut us down. We may just close this wing because we actually operated okay without you for 3, 4, 5 months last year.
Yeah.
So you've lost your job now. And now you're in this house that you just bought last year. And you paid a lot for it because home prices were up last year. And now you can't make those payments. And so you have to sell. No big deal. Over $2 trillion in equity around the country is available for sellers unless you can't get a loan because lenders are tightening constraints due to the uncertainty in the future. Now you have buyers that can't buy, sellers that want to sell that can't. And this is the situation for totally different reasons. But that's the situation that people found themselves in 2008 and 2009. And that is my concern. If the economy shuts down again, that's a big deal. If we don't, then I think these rates could continue just like the Redfin guy said. The low rates could continue until the economy feels fully recovered, which I think would be to the end of 2021 or 2022.
Well, there is one caveat to all that, because I see a lot of the benefits of, working remotely. I help a lot of people that are either in the film industry or in the video game industry or something. They don't have to work from any one spot. They used to, but now they don't. Right. And they're actually thriving and getting raises and getting new jobs. And I have new clients moving from Arizona, by the way. And that's just a jab at Dusty. That's what you get for eating lunch instead of watching our show. You get a jab thrown your way, I don't forget those things, Dusty.
Kind of early in Arizona for lunch anyway. Let's be real.
Well, hey, in her defense, it's free lunch. So, and also it's kind of lunchtime. They don't change. I have no idea what time it is. They don't change time zones. It might be 4 p.m. there. I don't know. Anyway, my point is, but they have a very healthy budget, up over $1 million. And they're looking in, the nicer areas because he's thriving. The husband's thriving. And so is the wife. They have great jobs and they're thriving throughout this. So that's the one caveat I have to say is that there is going to be that other section that may not have thriven before. Thriven, is that the word? Thriven?
Like
thrive.
Let's take it up. No, let's do thriven.
I think it's just thrive. But
I like thriven. I'm going to do thriven. They may not have thriven before, but now they are. So that's the one thing behind that. And that's obviously just me here in Southern California.
The commenters are ganging up on us. Howard says, wow. And then he says, hey, Dusty Martin, I got your back. Taylor warns against the headlines. Says, good point. He's attacking misinformation, goes every which way. Beware of those headlines.
That's why we do the show.
And look, I talk about politics for hours a day on the radio. I'm not gonna. That's not why I'm here today, right? But you can. I mean, propaganda exists in, and we've heard that word a ton, right? Well, if you take propaganda and you put it in the mortgage hands, it's marketing, right? And so their job is to use people use that word like it's a bad thing. We use it every day for our business. You just call it a different thing. Their job is to create stability in their industry. And so the way they phrase things and the way that they use these reports, and I mean, this is such a, and it's interesting for me because I'm not in this business on a daily basis anymore. So I enjoy your show because I get to kind of stay connected to some of this stuff, but it doesn't affect my ability to earn a living or whatever. So I don't stay as in tune to it, but these are such fine details. The reality is things are still strong. Rates are still low. Buyers are still buying. Sellers are still selling. And ultimately in the economy on a national scale, regardless of who the president is, I don't think it behooves any incoming president to, and that wasn't my way to say it's a challenged election. I'm saying regardless of what party or regardless of what election cycle, it never behooves a president to have a poorly performing economy. And so I think that Mr. Biden is going to have a very difficult time shutting down the economy as he moves into the office, simply because it's not a great way to start a presidency, and he knows that, right? And so
it's not a good look.
It doesn't track well with the numbers.
I mean, honestly, he'll probably forget about it. Sorry.
He's got a diaper change he's got to attend to. Kidding. I'm totally kidding. Sort of.
So
yeah, that doesn't track well with the left or the right, or even us centrists.
Well, that's me. I'm more centrist, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
For those of us,
wait. You're from Alabama. You're not totally right wing, wacko, red. Come on, man. Come on.
Hey, build that wall.
There you go.
He did. Roll Tide and roll Trump. Okay, roll Tide and roll Trump.
I like how you add a little bit to the accent, just a little bit more.
You got to add the accent.
Look, I don't have any cousins in my family. We're good.
I will say that his radio show is doing a survey right now, and you can win prizes if you listen to the radio show and then give them actually valuable feedback. But in the survey, they commented how they enjoyed that he was more centrist than total right-wing lunatic. So good on you.
See, I'm a left-wing lunatic, so we all balance out here.
So what's funny is Dan and I politically probably did not vote for that. Well, I know for a fact we did not vote for the same person.
I voted for a rock. That's who I voted for.
Yeah, we totally disagree on a lot of politics stuff, but in how we live and in what our expectation is for the economy and what how agents should perform for their clients, how we as an industry should perform, what we should be looking out for in the economy, we're all aligned on that. So we used to always try to disagree on articles because we thought, oh, this will be great. You have one viewpoint, I'll have another. We can disagree. We hardly ever disagree on anything because I think if you're human, a lot of these things just make sense.
Well, and the beauty of what that represents to we do that, right? And that's why I'm a conservative radio show host, and I am a conservative, but I'm a conservative that doesn't want to live in an echo chamber, right? I want to see people represented. Ultimately, I'm a Christian first, right? And so, believe it or not, Jesus wasn't a white Republican, and I know that's very difficult for people to swallow. That have that faith step.
You just lost most of your fan base, by the way.
Oh, I know, Dan. I say that every single day because it's true, and people need to hear it. And ultimately, what you guys are doing and what we do on our show, or try to, is demonstrate that people can be very different, have different points of views, have different. We could agree on nothing and still go have a beer and have a good time because you're a good person. I'm a good person. We believe in the same. We have the same interest. Whatever. And so it's just.
Man, I'm getting goosebumps right now with this. This is awesome.
Howard, I do this for 2 hours a day every day. You should tune in.
Howard Broadsley.
That's crazy. I won't. No.
that's too early for California. That's like 3 a.m.
Podcast archived at anytime you want to. Anytime you want to listen, buddy.
Howard Broadsley, check it out. Howard Broadsley, who actually is from Israel, says put in a smiley face there. Thanks.
Well, I mean, think about it though, because I hadn't ever really thought about. I don't think this way. I just really love Ray. I've always loved Ray, so I'm like, it was a no-brainer to do a show together. Especially we had great chemistry and all this stuff. So now we're 3 years into this thing. But when you really break it down like he just did, I mean, it's so amazing that we may have totally different views. I think we both kind of come from the center, and then one goes right and one goes left. I think that's kind of how we do it. But we've had a great friendship and built an awesome friendship over the last 4 years. And both, he said his point, I've said my point, and we just have this conversation. And I honestly think we need more of that in the country, not to get way off the topic here, but it's just awesome. And then
that's my fault. I'll take the blame there.
No, it's all good. And I love that you did, because I just kind of go and do the show with Ray. He's my great guy, and my great friend. But when you really think about, I'm from California, he's from Arkansas. It's like, how does this work? But it just works because we love each other. It's simple to me, so it's a no-brainer to do this show. And we both agree on the media is BS. We need to get past those headlines. So that's kind of where we do the show from, so I don't know, man. I appreciate you bringing that up. That's awesome.
Melissa Mars says, I like Zach guy. Just say truth, dude. Taylor says she's dying. Chris says, love it. Would love to get back to being able to rationally disagree and talk ideas with people again, instead of the ramped up tribalism that seems so prevalent right now.
Preach.
Yin and yang.
I know. I was a little worried bringing another dude from the South and Christian guy, conservative guy. I'm like, God dang it, this ain't gonna go well for me here in California.
We're gonna have another one of them toothless, no water having rednecks down here. It ain't gonna go well.
That's funny. Christian Harris says, "What's the link to Zach Guy's show or Facebook page?" So I actually tagged it. If you're watching this on Facebook, I tagged Boomer in the Beard, but you can also find him on YouTube, Boomer in the Beard. What's the hometown heartland?
Hometown heartbeat. You go to beardedisbetter.com will be the best place to go to get
beardedisbetter.com.
You're jealous, don't lie.
I know, that's a really good one. Actually, I own Dumbledoors.
Yeah.
Which is the place to go if you're looking for a real estate wizard.
Okay. Yeah. You'd have to spell that for the majority of non-nerds.
Doors. Okay. Anyway, so speaking of where people are going, let's talk about where people are looking from homes. So we did several stories this last year about because due to the RONA, everything that's happening with people searching from homes has changed. There was predictions there'd be mass exodus from major cities. We actually talked to Jay Glazer, who was on our show. I guess this was like 2 months ago from New York.
Yeah.
And he was back in New York. And he was talking about what was happening there and the realities of it, and that there weren't just triage tents lining the street and wailing and gnashing of teeth. He said
he's in the trenches. He's in New York City. So he, all these stories outside of New York City saying everyone mass exodus, there's, the RONA and everything's, he's like, no, it's not like that. That's not happening here. Although that study that I found about people leaving, that New York was the highest. They've had a lot of.
There are a lot of people leaving from New York. So the question is, what does the mass exodus look like? And what does it look like in relation to people searching online for their next house? Can y'all hear that lawnmower? They just started mowing my lawn. I got fired from lawn duty a long time ago. So now they're mowing. So hopefully you can't hear it. Anyway.
So it's like my cat's wandering around in the background of the show. Same thing.
Yeah. Same thing. Okay. So the headline is, where people are looking for homes, has it changed? So let me read to you guys I know, right? I probably should have maybe what's it called? Jump the shark whenever you just kind of get right into it. But so we've also heard from many in the real estate echelons, which are the higher ups in real estate, that more people are leaving the suburbs or moving to the suburbs, leaving the urban areas due to the pandemic. We heard about people fleeing from New York left and right, in California too. We talked about Jay Glazer. We know now that we have data that backs up what Jay was saying, kind of. Jay was saying he wasn't seeing a huge mass exodus, that he was seeing a more of change in how people buy. And this was early on.
People coming in, though. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. And if you watched the show 3 or 4 months ago, this is going to be old news to you. But if you only look at the headlines, you will be shocked to find out that, quote, we have not seen people fundamentally move to different areas because of what's going on. That's a quote from Chris Heller. He's a chief real estate office at Ojo Labs, and he was telling Inman. Ojo Labs pulls data from Movato, which is a real estate.
Chris Heller. He's the one from Keller Williams, isn't he?
He is. Yes, I was actually going to get to that. So Chris Heller, you might remember from some of our old Keller Williams stories, is now at Ojo. He said the same counties tended to remain popular with consumers. So there was just kind of a shift in some of the top counties. There wasn't any that just got kicked out of the top preferred counties from home buyers, but there was a shift in where they were looking.
Right.
So they're searching in the less dense part of the counties. So in summation, people are fleeing from urban and densely populated areas, but they're not going very far. They want to basically stay in the same area, but they want their physical house and space to be different than what they're currently living in. So they want to stay in the same area, just not packed. In many metro areas like Austin and Dallas, backyard was the #1 search attribute added. So if you are an agent in Austin and Dallas, and probably across the United States, be sure that you're talking about the backyard so that people find it. They want more outdoor space, things like pools, patios, bigger yards. The median preference for a lot size grew by more than 700 square feet between January 2020 and September 2020, according to the data from Movato. So here's another quote from Chris. He said, people aren't necessarily moving to dramatically different areas, but we do see people buying different homes. We do see that they're making different decisions because they want more outdoor space. So pretty interesting article. I would say it surmises. Are we just making up words today? It surmises
Yeah,
everything.
thrivening.
Yeah, it's thriven.
Yeah.
It's surmising the thrivening population of the suburbs.
It's thrivening.
But it's basically saying like people aren't totally leaving the state or leaving the city or leaving the county. They're just like changing neighborhoods.
Right, but what headline plays though?
You mean the China virus makes people not want to live packed up in there like sardines? They want a backyard. They want a backyard with the China virus on the loose. Wait a minute.
Crazy.
Of course,
Turns out that a worldwide pandemic makes you a little skittish of people.
Is this a headline? Like, are these? I mean, these people, they get paid to do this. Do you realize that these people get paid to do this?
Well, what's interesting is that the study contradicts what we've been seeing in the headlines to this point. And all the headlines that are saying everyone's running away and way out of the city, they're changing from New York to Arkansas. No, they're changing from like, I don't know, New York. I'm just going to make up New York places. So they're changing from like east side to north side. Right? That's the significant difference of the search. So they
don't have to touch 73 different surfaces on their way from their lobby to their door where they're going to be exposed to germs. They just want to touch one surface, the door. They want to go in their backyard.
I cannot imagine what it would be like going through to get to your home, those little hallways and stuff like that, and elevators and all that stuff.
Like who walked there just before you? Whoa.
You could see the Rona in the air.
Yeah, you just see it floating, waiting to attack your face.
Chris Harris says subscribed on the YouTubes. Whoop whoop. Hopefully that was to both Hometown Harpy and to the Bitterman Real Estate Show. Just saying.
Hopefully he was already subscribed to ours.
Yeah, I mean he's not watching on YouTube now, Christian. So maybe you should give the YouTube a watch. Melissa Vara said, I think people are just leaving altogether. I think a good portion of people that could bought second homes. So they could have the option to be there if they have to. So we're not really getting to the second home discussion much lately, but we did talk about it previously and how at the beginning of the coronavirus, we talked about how a lot of them were going on sale because people couldn't book them. And it was a huge disaster with everyone that planned on having these wonderful Airbnbs this summer and they bought it and leveraged themselves. And now crap, no one's filling up my Airbnb because they can't vacation. And now they're like full forever. Because people are going towards the Airbnbs and away from giant hotels or giant. So it's just really interesting to see that for a very short window, there was like a 2-month opportunity where people could buy a second home and get a deal on it. And now there's no more deals because not only are people like, I'm still interested in buying and owning a second home. Now you have people that worked in Silicon Valley. They're like, if I can work from anywhere, I'm going to work from the beaches of Texas.
Yeah. The beaches of Arkansas.
Kristen Harris says subscribe to both. Good. Ray said the C word. Dadgummits. You try. We try really hard to get to
we do
show.
pretty good.
You pulled a Ron Burgundy. You read the teleprompter right in front of you just as it was written. I mean, we could have typed anything in there. It wouldn't have mattered.
Well, the Tom Chizek, who watches, he hasn't been on in a while, so I hope Tom is okay. But he's in he's in Maui.
He is, yeah. He says every time he's on the show, he's like, "Hey, from Maui." It's like, okay, Tom.
So when this all happened, everything was shut down. He was like, "Dude, we're dead out here. There's nothing going on. A, people can't fly, to Hawaii, and B, they're not purchasing second homes." But then, 2 months ago, month and a half ago-ish, he's like, "We're back. We're good. Everything's fine." So it's going back to the other story I had earlier. People are getting more comfortable with traveling and being around the Rona now. Do you want to live in a high rise where you got to go up 72 stories to get there and go through 72 levels of the flu, the Rona, and all that stuff?
2 levels of hell.
But people are loosening up. Yeah.
Now Maui, that's in Alabama, right?
Yeah. Right. So here, one of my favorite memes.
We don't get out of the state much. I don't know much about geography.
Well, one of my favorite memes. Well, you're from Alabama, of course, but I'm just kidding. Love you,
Chris. I love you.
But one of my favorite memes was,
I was going to be pissed. If you didn't take that opportunity to get me, I was going to be pissed. I literally served it up to you.
Yeah. And I have to take it. By the way, I always say, if I don't mess with you, I don't like you. But one of my favorite memes was, if Biden wins, I'm moving to Hawaii. I'm getting out of this country. I'm moving to Hawaii. And it was always farcical. It was always sarcasm. And I swear it didn't matter if it was Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, wherever. Undoubtedly 1,000 people were like, "That's in the United States, stupid." And the guy's like, "Dude, I'm just trying to make a joke." And it just, Oh my God.
My favorite is all these self-absorbed idiots that think we care about them, that are like, well, if they're important, they're celebrities, they're movie stars, and it's like, if Trump wins or if Biden wins, whoever it is, I'm moving. It's like,
I don't care.
well, good thing that'll probably influence the outcome of the election, because people can't stand the thought of not having you around. Like, are you kidding me? Nobody cares.
Some guy with 512 followers on Instagram. Oh my God, don't leave.
That's why they call them influencers.
No.
Christian Harris says, shameless plug. If you like Zach's Hometown Heartbeat show, you may also dig the Old Fashioned Dad podcast. And
that's what we call. Yeah, that is the absolute shameless plug. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not above it. That's fine.
I didn't see that he literally wrote on there shameless plug, and I was about to say we call that and then I was like, I'm going to look like an idiot.
Yeah, there it is in the comments there if you want to see it, and I will send
you.
You
can't read your own. Yeah. It's like giving yourself a nickname. Can't do that.
Yeah, it's terrible. Can't do it.
Melissa Mara said, I would have only been sad if Bruce really left New Jersey, because that's just wrong.
I think she means Springsteen.
Oh, the boss man. Did he really say he was going to leave the country? The United States guy? That's what I call him.
Look, his catalog's still going to be on the app. You're still going to be able to listen to him.
I mean, how would you get your jollies off to that scratchy "Born in the USA"?
That's a really freaking good impersonation. We've got to use that. That is unbelievable.
But then went to Canada.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
What? You should have brought that.
Oh yeah. Oh, we got him. We got it.
Oh my gosh.
The show is full of it. Speaking of full of it, we got about 5 minutes left to cover two stories. So, Dan, why don't you jump on this one here?
Fannie Mae reports that a housing market confidence drop.
All righty, good show.
Hey, what's Opendoor doing, Ray? I love doing that for Matt. I hope he grabs those and does like a 30-second BMORE
30-second chop. So we'll release that in a special limited edition on the Instagram for all you influencers.
Yeah.
By the way, here if you do want that story, it's over on Housing Wire. But yeah, Fannie Mae is saying that housing market confidence drops, and it is both in buyers and sellers. Buyers more than sellers.
I mean, that seems like also a no-brainer story at this time, whenever you don't know what's going to happen due to the election and stuff like that. It's still above the 50%, right, which is what they look at for builder confidence. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's a relatively newer story, but it's 11.5 points lower than a year ago. So it's at 80 points now, and it was at 91 something a year ago.
Worldwide pandemic, 11 points lower. That's pretty good still.
And still pretty confident. And more than 50% of the people on the buy and the sell side are saying it's a great time to do either. So
I know we don't have time for this, and I'm not a smart enough man to get it. I'm sure I'm from Alabama. But what is the home purchase sentiment index? That sounds like one of those studies that somebody made up because they needed a grant written and funded.
There's also home builders.
Home builder sentiment is what we cover most of the time. We don't usually cover the home
arbitrary number they made up to sell something, guaranteed.
I mean, they always sell this data, but it's basically how people feel about potentially buying a house.
Remember that part where they said find an agent that knows what they're talking about? Use those two guys there, because I have no clue about it.
It's those. So when you're a stats driven person, it's one of those stats where you're like, well, actually, home builder sentiment is up, so we should be seeing more new construction. Or it's one of those, and they made a whole report about it. But that's why we currently want to know what Opendoor is doing.
That's right. But before we get into that, Melissa Marr brings up a good point. She says, can we just get BMORE karaoke to happen? Oh, this is a great idea.
Yeah, it's actually called BMORE Okie. Just like a good whiskey.
We're going to find a way. All right, so Opendoor is publicly trading. So
I love that pick.
Oh yeah, it's a great pick. There you go. Look at his eyes like cutting to the top right there.
Yeah, he's so good.
So they're expected to make a public debut December 21 after a shareholder vote and official merger with a special purpose acquisition company, Social Capital Hedosophia Holdings Corporation II. I'm not even joking. It's SCHHC number 2. The company will trade on the NASDAQ, which is a multitude of listing requirements. So this is Opendoor's opening to the stock market, and that pretty much, I mean, that story's on Inman. You can kind of get the most of the story. Basically, they last time they filed, you remember this? They filed and they like showed tons of losses or whatever.
Yeah,
they posted like 1.9 billion in revenue or something like that.
But 300 million in losses on the iBuyer program, something like that, right?
Yeah, it was, and we were wondering like, how do they get a valuation of what they have with loss? Yeah, the company posted a net loss of 118 million in the first 6 months of 2020. You know, Zach's a smart guy. Maybe he knows this. How do you value a company where they're valuing this company? The company posted a net loss of 118 million in the first 6 months of 2020, compared to a net loss of only 157 million in the first 6 months of 2019. So for the entire year of 2019, they sold nearly 19,000 homes. They generated 4.7 billion in revenue, and still posted a net loss.
So the way they do all that stuff is it's more arbitrary than the HPSI, and so they take a cash flow number, they use a multiplier on that, then they take liabilities, and they take and then ultimately, as we found out with WeWork and Adam Newman, it really doesn't matter about your valuation. Your valuation is a number that you think you can sell to bankers, so they'll fund your stock or whatever, they'll open your stock at a certain price point. But really and truly, at that point when they go public, valuations are so farcical that it's impossible. I mean, you have to be one of those what am I trying to say?
Nerds.
No, I'm not trying to say that. One of those corrupt Wall Street people that are trying to take folks' money to be in that business, because it makes no sense in the way that, I mean, I've bought and sold a business, right? So I know how to do a valuation of a traditional business. But when you get to that IPO level, it's like I said, it's more arbitrary than Fannie Mae's number.
Well, I think the big ruse or the big rub is getting people to buy in. Okay, cool. It's valued at 1.8 million or billion. All right, I'm in. Like that's the thing to me is all these new tech startups that are like, well, we don't actually have a product. We have a great idea, but we're worth $2 billion. All right,
we have a run rate of $250,000 a month, which means, for those of you that don't know what that means, we're literally burning $250,000 a month and heating our hands with it, like we're just at the fire. Just
listen, Mara said, really, how do you get a valuation when you're bleeding money? Yeah, I mean,
you just make it up.
Basically,
it's all future valuation. It's all what your widget, whatever your widget is. If it's Opendoor, then their service or their technology or whatever it is will be valued at X, Y, and Z based on they've done this in the past year, and at that amount they only lost X amount of money. So if we exponentially increase that, then we would say with our numbers we won't lose money at X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, what you lose on margin, you make up for in volume.
It doesn't work that way. I ran a discount brokerage. Let me tell you, it doesn't work that way.
So what's interesting to me is I think nowadays the acquisitions are directly tied to the propensity or the chance that they would be acquired by a larger company and bought out.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the payday for most of the venture capitalists. So you build these companies up that look really good to someone like Google or Zillow or some of these other major companies, and then they get bought up by those companies, and bam, there's the cash out.
Yeah, pour one out for our dead homie Adam Newman, because coronavirus killed him.
Yeah.
He was already nutty before this all happened.
No question. He was nuttier than a squirrel turd, but coronavirus killed him.
Yeah.
Did you get that Alabama expression there, Dan, by the way?
I love it. I'm a big fan.
Melissa Mara said, so I value myself at 100 million. Where's my buddy?
Here we go. Here we say nuttier than a homeless guy on Venice Beach.
Oh my God.
Okay. Do they poop nuts?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was trying to, again, we don't leave the cotton belt very often. So I don't even, where's Venice Beach?
You should,
is that in Alabama?
Just Google homeless. What's the politically correct term that the article used? Feces, California.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll be extremely nutty.
Good topic for you. Good topic for you on your radio show tomorrow.
Yeah, well, consider it done. And Dan, I just want you to know that when your governor, Mr. Newsom, decides to let you guys live your lives again, I would love to come and visit California and have you personally show me around.
Absolutely. By the way, I don't care what our governor says. I'll say it on the show now. I'm still living my life. And we have a lot of businesses. And by the way, all of our sheriffs have all said, we're not doing it. Now, they all say, hey, wear your mask, social distance, don't have big parties of 10 or more, 12 or whatever it is, other than what Newsom's doing. But they say we're not going to enforce anything and tell people to stay home after 10 because that's ridiculous. The RONA, it'll get you at night, it won't get you at 9:59, but 10:01, you're going to get it. Like,
I like this guy. Ray, you told me he was okay, but you undersold him a little bit.
Yeah, well, and then the other thing that we have here, and this is probably across the country, but you can't do indoor dining, but you can build an outdoor structure that's indoors, outdoors, and then you can dine indoors, outdoors. What? So anyway,
there was also a lady in California that was PO'd because she had set up a restaurant with the indoor dining, and then they shut her down and told her she couldn't, and then they gave permission for a movie company to set up in that same park
with the exact same setup. They're fine.
Ray, is there a strobe light going behind you?
I actually think the popos are coming because of some of the comments of what Dan's making.
Why are they there?
Dan, you can't actually talk freely these days because not only will the National Association of Realtors tamp down on you, but so will most local governments. So it appears that there is a police officer outside of my window at this moment.
I'm glad that my IP routing, that I send it through Ray, so they don't know where I'm at.
Where the show comes from.
And I know you're out of time, so let me just say one thing. First of all, thank you guys for having me on the show. But second of all, I want to apologize to all of your listeners that are used to an educated, real estate-centric podcast that I just came in and threw a freaking grenade on it. But we had a lot of fun, and I greatly appreciate you guys having me on today.
Tell everybody where they can find you.
I wanted to apologize real quick that I wasn't able to counteract both accents today. It was only me from California. I apologize. I tried to do my best to de-accent the show, but I couldn't do it. I'm sorry,
man. Look, you're all right. I don't like anybody most people from California, but you're all right for a white dude. You know what? You're all right for a white dude. Beardedisbetter.com. That's where you can get access to all of our stuff. Beardedisbetter.com. Ray or rayisjealous.com because he wants that.
He wants for sale. That's a good one too. Dan, where can people find you?
Don't, but go to whatever D-Ludwig Rocks everywhere.
DLUDWIGROCKS.com. And you guys can find me at in the local penitentiary or at RayZorback. So thanks everybody for joining the show. We had an awesome time. Thanks, Zach. And be sure to follow him on the Hometown Heartbeat Boomer in the
Love you guys. Thank you so much for following. And sorry I got so obstinate there, but now I'm not doing what our governor says. Dang it, I did it again.
Oh my gosh.
Love you.
You're gonna find me now.